Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most, truly breathtaking archaeological sites on the entire planet, Bagan. You might have heard of it. It's the city that was once home to 10,000 temples. Okay, I'm willing to bet you've seen a picture just like this one, right? Maybe scrolling online. It's that incredible sunrise over this massive plain, just dotted with the silhouettes of thousands of ancient temples. They just stretch on and on as far as you can see. It's a seriously unforgettable sight.
But when you look at a picture like that, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? How on earth did this incredible city even come to exist? Who built it? And where did they go?
So just to try and wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this place, picture this. At its absolute peak, this plain was home to more than 10,000. Not 100, not 1,000, 10,000 Buddhist temples, pagodas, and monasteries. It's just wild. And what's even crazier, even today, after centuries of earthquakes, weather, and just time, the remains of over 2,200 of them are still standing. That's just a fraction of what was there, and it's still one of the densest collections of temples in the world. All right, so let's try and make sense of this incredible plain of temples. Well, to really get Bagan, you have to go back in time. We need to look at the empire that built all of this, an empire pretty much forged by faith. We're talking about the pagan kingdom. So, for about 250 years, right between the 11th and 13th centuries, Bagan was the capital of this super powerful pagan kingdom. And during that time, wow, there was this just unprecedented religious fervor that led to a massive construction boom. A frenzy of building that completely transformed the landscape forever. And you gotta understand, Bagan wasn't just any city. No way. It was the political, the economic, and the cultural heart of the very first kingdom to bring together all the different regions that, would eventually become modern-day Myanmar. It was the whole shebang. Because of all that power and wealth, Bagan got this reputation as a major center for learning. So it became this real cosmopolitan hub. It wasn't some isolated city in the middle of nowhere. Nope, it was pulling in monks, scholars, and skilled artisans from all over Asia, from India, Sri Lanka, you name it. This created this amazing melting pot of cultures, languages, and ideas. And all of that energy is what really fueled this incredible growth. Okay, so we've talked about the quantity of temples, right? The thousands and thousands of them. But here's the thing. Bagan wasn't just about building a lot. It was a total hotbed of architectural genius and innovation. And even though there are thousands of them, you can basically break down the temple designs into two main types. First, you've got the stupa style. Think of it as a big, solid, bell-shaped monument, usually with a chamber inside to hold a sacred relic. Then you have the gu style, which is more like a traditional temple. It's hollow, kind of cave-like, and it's where people would go inside for meditation and worship. If you look at the really early stupas, like the original Bupaya pagoda, you can see they came from older, simpler designs. They have this kind of straightforward, rounded dome shape. But then, by the 11th century, something really cool happens. They evolve. They turn into this much more elegant, graceful bell shape that's uniquely Burmese. The famous Shwizigan pagoda is a perfect example. And see how the top part changes? It morphs into this beautiful design that looks like a lotus or a banana bud. That became the absolute signature look for the whole region. And this is the really crucial part. The builders in Bagan were absolute pioneers. They were figuring out how to use things like vaulted ceilings and pointed arches all by themselves. We're talking techniques that wouldn't show up in India, for example, for another whole century. This wasn't just copying what others were doing. It was a legitimate, homegrown architectural leap forward. But as we all know, golden ages don't last forever. And for all its power and glory, the pagan empire eventually started to fade. So what happened? What brought it all down? Well, the popular story points the finger at one very, very famous group of invaders. But is that the whole picture? The reality, as historians are finding out, is actually a bit more complicated. Okay, so everyone always blames the Mongols, right? And look, the Mongol invasions in the late 13th century definitely caused problems and weakened the empire. But here's the twist. Recent research is showing that the Mongol armies probably never even reached Bagan itself. So that dramatic image we all have in our heads of a Mongol horde sacking the city and burning it to the ground, it's probably a myth. The real story is, well, it's a little less dramatic, but it makes a lot more sense. What really happened was a gradual shift. The king's power in the capital started to weaken, and power just sort of leaked out to the governors in the provinces. So Bagan wasn't wiped out in some big, fiery battle. It just slowly faded. It became a backwater as the empire itself just kind of fractured and fell apart.
But the end of the empire wasn't the end of the story for these temples. Not at all. Today, Bagan's incredible legacy is still here, but it's facing a whole new set of threats.
And these modern threats are kind of like a 1-2 punch. On one hand, you have the sheer power of nature. Bagan is smack in the middle of an active earthquake zone. And on the other hand, you have the impact of us, of humans. We're talking about controversial restoration projects and the simple, constant pressure of tourism.
And this right here is a perfect, if heartbreaking, example of that danger. Check this out. On the left, that's the ancient Bupaya Pagoda, photographed back in 1868. Well, in 1975, a massive earthquake completely destroyed it, leveled it. And what you see on the right is the rebuild, done in a totally modern, gilded style. The original is just gone. So the journey to protect this place has been long and really, really tough. There was a failed attempt to get UNESCO recognition back in the 90s, partly because of those controversial restorations. Then, in 2016, another huge earthquake hit, damaging nearly 400 more temples. But finally, after all that, in 2019, Bagan was officially named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a huge step in securing its future for all of us.
And getting that official status is a game changer. It brings in resources, expertise, and a global spotlight on preservation. But it leaves us with this one big final question, and it's a tricky one. When you have a place this huge, this ancient, and this fragile, how do you do it? How do you protect this incredible window into the past while still embracing the future? It's a tough balance to strike.